Now.
Drinks on me, girls on me, on the dance floor. All eyes on me, party like a rock star. You can find me in VIP. All eyes on me, yeah, where the girls are. This is how your night should be.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Gogotalx, brought to you by GOGOTIX. I'm your host, as always, Malachi Johns, joined today by my man Rob F, producer Rob. How you doing today, sir?
Feeling well, great, man. Feeling great.
That's good. That's good. If you're on Instagram, make sure you head over to youtube.com/GoGoTix so you can see Rob. He's got his whole little setup, like he looks like he's about to get interviewed by like Gayle King or Oprah Winfrey or something. His setup looks way better than mine. So yeah, man. So all right, let's get into it. Rob,
Yes, sir.
how did you get into the music industry and specifically into go-go?
All right. So I know you asked this question with everybody. So my earliest
I hope you're ready for this because
yeah.
you watching. So thanks for being a supporter, first of all.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So my first inspiration was me leaving elementary school. This was back in the 80s, early to mid 80s, and this guy was riding down the street with a Suzuki Sidekick. You remember those?
Damn, you remember the car and everything. Yeah, and I
Okay.
remember little baby SUV things, and they had
Yep.
convertible. Yep.
And he had, they used to have the systems in that joint, and they was cranking this daggone junkyard tape. And I heard little Mike sing, "With all my heart, I love
You get a concert too.
Yeah, so I heard that, man. That joint just touched me for some reason. It was like 3 o'clock. I'm coming out of school. That joint was cranking, and then I heard the keyboards. Dun, dun. I was like, "Oh man, I want to do that right there."
Mm-hmm.
So from that point, my uncle bought me my first keyboard. It was a little Casio, and I just kind of just
With the speakers on it.
Yeah. This one even had a calculator on it. I don't know if you remember that one.
No, I've never seen it.
It had a calculator on it.
So wait, but you back up real quick. Where's this elementary school? Where did you grow up?
Abram Simon, Southeast Washington, D.C.
Okay, there you go.
Yes,
There
sir.
seems to be a
North
recurring
Mississippi.
theme on this show here. Everybody that's anybody in Kogo seems to somehow or another have passed through Southeast at some.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Bred and raised. So yeah, so later in my years, high school years, I was going to DC. I mean, I was going to school in Virginia, and we had just moved to Virginia, my family and I. And there was a band out there, and I wanted to try my hand because I've been kind of practicing with the Casio and stuff. So I started playing with this group called what's the name of the group? Young Creation.
How did you start playing with them? Because this is always interesting to me, the ways that people actually start playing with a band, like their first band. Like, how do you even make that happen?
So some cats I was cool with in my neighborhood, after like from DC to Virginia was kind of like a little semi-culture shock, but it was some cool cats that I saw in the neighborhood that I got to know, and come to find out one of them played drums, one of them played congos. That's shout out to Earl and Johnny. And they had a band, so I had a keyboard and they needed a keyboard player. So they was like, "Hey man, would you want to play with our band?" I would say, "Sure, let's practice, I can come to the practices and stuff," which was at the drummer's house. Shout out to Big Scooter. And we started practicing. I don't think we ever did any shows, but we used to practice like every other day after school.
That's a recurring theme too. I've been in about 3 or 4 bands that rehearsed a whole bunch and never played any shows either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And then from that, let's see what was next. We started this other group. So some of the guys from that band, including Earl and Johnny and some other folks, we started a band called High Energy, and this was still on the northern side of Virginia. And we did a few shows, but like a lot of the shows we were doing, like in DC, we're in DC and Maryland. And this was kind of like semi on the Big Butch circuit.
Okay.
And yeah, we weren't affiliated with Big Butch, but he would throw the shows, and they would need like opening bands, and we would go and open for those particular shows. And that was fun for a while. And then after that,
so at that time, were there go-go's happening in Virginia, and y'all just weren't playing on them, or there just wasn't anything happening there?
Okay, so Virginia is a weird thing, man, because like there were go-go's in Virginia, but the Virginia go-go's were kind of like, because like I don't know, it's something that happened before I moved there. There's beef like all over Virginia.
Every single time I've ever played a go-go in Virginia, there's been a fight. Every single time.
I don't understand it.
The ratio is crazy. I don't understand why is everybody in Virginia so angry? Like,
I don't know.
There. Like, what's the problem?
I don't know, man. But yeah, so we didn't really do a lot of Virginia shows. But we would do shows in Maryland and DC and stuff. And then when that band kind of dissolved, I moved on to this other group. They needed a keyboard player, which was a friend of somebody that was in that band, girlfriend, and it was an all-girl band, except for me, of course.
Except for you.
Yeah. And they were based out of St. Pleasant.
What was the name of that band?
The name of that group was Synquicity.
Synquicity.
Yeah.
I can't say that I ever heard of Synquicity.
Right. So, and mind you, like I'm getting my chops up. I'm meeting people. It's like, you know, built-in network, you know, from Virginia to St. Pleasant, Southeast DC. You know, my aunt still lived in Southeast, so I would visit over there, and I had homies over there, and all this stuff. So at some point, after playing with them, I just got kind of tired of playing go-go, because it was kind of like, okay, you know, I really want to do this music thing, and none of this stuff is really taking me where I feel like I want to be.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying?
Stop right there for a second.
Okay,
this is what I'm trying to understand, why we do this to ourselves. Why did you have that feeling?
Partially because I was putting in, me myself personally, I felt like I was putting in a whole lot of time, right? Putting in a whole lot of creativity, and it just seemed like it was for the fun of it. Like, so after the fun kind of, you know, wears out, it's like, all right, what else left do I have to show for with all this stuff I've been doing? Like, we need some residuals, you know what I'm saying? And
so why did the fun go away though? What do you like? What makes the fun go away?
So for me, what made the fun go away was us doing a bunch of the same old repetitious, mundane things that didn't seem to be progressing the band. And I wanted to move forward into like a professional side of my career, you know what I'm saying? Right. And each group that I was with, I felt like, okay, at some point we can get to that, but we have to build to that. But it seems like at a certain point, people in the group they don't really want to grow anymore. That's what it felt like to me. And it's like, okay,
what would have been the perfect scenario, like for all these groups that you said that you felt like it wasn't going where you wanted it to go? Was what you were looking to be Rare Essence, or was what you were looking to be I don't know, Motley Crue, whatever, you know, like whatever.
Okay, so in the beginning, you know, I aspired to be like a local celebrity, you know, a Rare Essence, a Junkyard, you know, and all that stuff. So that was my goal. And back then, you know, the highlight of somebody in go-go was like playing at the Capitol Center. You know what I'm saying? So that was like you made it if you played at the Capitol Center in front of a sold out audience, stuff like that. So that was kind of like the goal.
So, and I'm sorry I keep interrupting, but it's really important what I think you're talking about. So if the goal, so I'm only aware of one, maybe two shows that happened at the Capitol Center. That doesn't mean there were more. That's just what I'm aware of. Obviously, Go Live. I think there were two of them, right?
Yeah.
And then they did another one later, like at the Armory or something that wasn't really the real Go Live or something like that. But anyway, so there were two Go Lives, and those were one-time shows with 7-8 bands on them. Yeah, the Capitol Center was filled, but that was 7-8 premier bands in their hometown playing at the Capitol Center. So if that's I guess what I'm trying to get at is how is that, why do we have it in our brains that is that's not a sustainable career necessarily?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it is if they're playing every 3-4 times a week, for 300-400 people, then yeah, that's a different scenario. But if you see what I'm getting at? I'm just trying to understand.
I understand what you're saying, but at 14 years old,
yeah,
at 14 years old, I wasn't thinking outside of that. Like that was like the biggest thing that I could see like in my forefront that I could probably grasp. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. So, but like I said, after being with that particular group, I kind of hung it up, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to play go-go anymore. Let me just kind of start shooting towards, getting my career off the ground with music, just doing something different.
Right.
So I went to this. I went to it was a concert or recital or something, and at this school in Virginia, and the music director at the school, so after that was over, I went with my friends or whatever, and after it was over, I was just on the piano just playing and stuff, and at the time I was kind of studying some jazz stuff, and the music director was like, "Hey man, you sound pretty good on the piano. Like, would you consider, going with me and a couple of other students? We got like a little thing we do, a little jazz quartet that we do on the weekends. You can make yourself $100." And so I was like, "Yeah, I want to do that." You know what I'm saying? So
were you making? Had you made any money in go-go yet, or this was the first time you were going to make money? Okay.
Yeah, this was going to be the first time I was going to make money, right? So I didn't really want to do that, but I mean, for $100, I mean, go play for 30 minutes or something.
Yeah.
With some other students. Hey, that's pretty good at like 15, 16 or whatever.
That's like $1 million.
Yeah, especially back then. So at this time, okay, so yeah, this was like 90. It's probably like 91, 92. And then so my boys Earl and Johnny, they was like the ones I used to hang out with in Virginia. But they was telling me about this group, Northeast Groovers, that's playing at the Racket and Fitness Club over in Maryland, right? So he's like, "Yeah, let's go up there." So we went up there, and man, when I tell you, that was like the crankingest band to me that I've ever experienced live. You know what I mean? Rare Essence and all that, that's cool, But for me at my age and just seeing the audience,
somebody is gonna just like stab you in the comments, but
I don't care, man. This is my story. But anyway, hey, much love to everybody. But anyway, yeah, they were so tight, and they had dance routines. Everything was just so precise. They had the dances that was like, a treat to see. But they were just tight, you know what I mean? And I noticed, I said, Maestro back there by himself, he just got 2 keyboards and an 808 machine. He gonna need some help, right?
Yeah.
So I said to myself, well, maybe I'll give Gogo another shot. You know what I'm saying? Right. I'm gonna try to, try my hand at getting an audition with Northeast Groovers. And if I can't get in Northeast Groovers, then I'm gonna go ahead and take this dude up on his offer as far as this jazz band and stuff. So went to holler at Hug one night after the show, and he was like, "Hey man, yeah, we're not really looking for any keyboard players right now, but I'm sure we're gonna probably expand. So just stay in touch." So whatever. I don't know. Time went by, and
did you already know Hug at that time, or you just
No, I just walked up to him, like introduced myself, and say, "Yeah, man, I really like y'all outfit. I'm trying to be a part of this. Like, I know everybody probably come to you, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm serious about this, and I know he probably was like, man, this little Negro. Anyway,
Well, I was gonna say because he's not typically that nice to people, so I'm surprised that he, or I guess I was gonna say the way you approached him
yeah,
must have been in such a way that it's like, all right, well, at least I'm gonna say keep in touch because normally he'd be like, nah, we good.
right, yeah. I mean, it was a little bit of that,
But
but
you know,
I was kind of surprised that he talked. We actually had a conversation too, but yeah,
like,
um, but yeah, so long story short, moving forward, I haven't gotten any
I'm
word back
sorry, real quick for anybody that doesn't know that if you don't already know, I used to play in Northeast Groovers. Hug is a good friend of mine. I'm just kidding, but he is an asshole. But anyway, go ahead.
yeah. So moving forward, I was just because I didn't hear back from them, and I know that they were really really busy at the time, so, and it looked like they weren't trying to like change their formula anytime soon. So I was just kind of gave up on that idea. So I was thinking about going with this jazz scenario that the music director was talking about, and then this guy called me up out the blue. It was Earl. It was I can't remember if Johnny was with them, but then there was another one of our buddies named Stan. He said, "Hey man, we got this show coming up, and we need to rehearse. But the keyboard player that we gonna use is out of town. Would you be willing to sub for us just throughout the rehearsal? We already got time booked at this rehearsal studio out in Maryland. This dude named Charlie Fenwicks, and would you come on, man? Just come rehearse with us." So I was like, nah, I don't know if I really want to get involved with that and this and that. So they're like, look, man, just tell us what you want. I said, all right, look, come pick me up. Somebody got to carry my keyboard, and I want some Popeye's chicken.
Hold up, did you know? Were you aware of Charlie Fenwick at all this time,
Nah,
or
I didn't know who he
didn't know
was.
anything about his history? And okay, gotcha.
So
Okay.
I was like, and those are my terms.
I want to know: did you get the chicken? That's what we want to know.
Absolutely, I got the chicken. We stopped there first, and my homie Stan came in there. He grabbed my keyboard. He came in my house, grabbed my keyboard, packed it up in the car, and we had it.
Bargains, huh?
Yeah, those are my terms, man. I had given up on go-go, bro. Yeah, I was like, okay, it's just not working out for me. It's not for me. so those were my terms, and they met my terms. So we get out to the practice, and we're about probably like an hour late. We finally get in there and get everything set up. We practiced for about maybe 20 or 30 minutes. And so now Charlie is like coming into the rehearsal space, and he's like, okay, guys, it's time to shut it down. The next group getting ready to come in, such and such. So
I don't remember if I've ever seen Charlie do that. I feel like it was always you doing that. Like you took over that job, didn't you?
Did I? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe I'm remember wrong. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, maybe I had a session and I needed y'all to get out of the studio. But anyway, yeah. So Charlie came over and to shut the rehearsal down, and as we're packing up, he's like, "Hey man, I really like the way you play the keyboards, and I'm looking for a keyboard player." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" So
this was Charlie that said this? This was Charlie that said this?
Yeah, this is Charlie.
Okay.
So he said, I'm getting ready to start a young band, between the ages of 16 and 18, right? So Stan, the guy that called me, he was like, "Oh man, Rob's your man." You know what I'm saying? Rob's 16. And then he said, "Well, I don't, I'm not the type of person that like pull people out of bands. Like he's playing with your band." So he said, "Nah, man, Rob not with us. He's just helping us out for the night." Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, well, what kind of band is it? He said, "Well, it's going to be a go-go band, and I like your style, and I think, you'll fit in good." So I was like, "All right, well, I'll think about it." You know what I'm saying? So he said, "All right, we'll take my number." He gave me his card and stuff. So I called him the next week or whatever. But in the meantime, I was doing some research on Charlie. I found out that he had Pleasure and High Cold Sweat, and the Pleasure Christmas songs come on, and that's like that makes your Christmas. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Every
Yep.
year. And High Cold Sweat had Brian and Petey and Wincy singing at
Yep.
that time. Blue Eyed Earl on drums, and these are like people I looked up to. I was like, all right, well, shoot, man, maybe I'll give Charlie a shot, you know. So,
Real quick,
yeah.
Ricky's on here. Ricky Angles. Ricky said you had a rider at 15 years old.
Big Rick, what's up, baby?
Got U Street Music Group on here too.
Oh yeah, that's my man Aaron. What's up? What's
Yep.
up, Aaron? So yeah, so moving forward, we spent about 18 months putting the band together. And it was kind of crazy because I was recruiting people out of bands that were breaking up. The first people I recruited was Earl and Johnny.
Mhm.
That didn't work out so good. You know what I'm saying?
So why not?
Well, so I ain't trying to throw nobody under the bus, man. I love these dudes, but Earl just wasn't cutting it as a drummer.
Okay, so it was
for what Charlie was looking for.
It was a musical thing. I got you.
Yeah. And then Johnny, he really loved Johnny, but Johnny had problems with legal issues. You say that. So okay, after that first, that was actually the first generation of the Huck-A-Bucks. It was me, Johnny, and Earl. So after that, I called some folks, and then half of this story is on Ricky's story, but just to keep it short, I called some folks that I knew just from playing in different venues and stuff, people I didn't network with. One of them was Wayne Chu. He was a drummer for I think it was Total Groove at the time, and he helped me pull other guys that he knew to get in the band, and that's when we met Ricky, Chiefy, and Carlos. They came as like a package deal, and so we were like the nucleus of the band. It was me, Chiefy, Ricky, and Carlos. And then Ricky knew some people, and Carlos knew some people, and then we just over like a period of like 18 months, we were in the woodshed. We were getting stuff together, and then we had the Huck-A-Bucks. So like around 92, we started hitting the roads, and like every weekend we would go out of town to perform. And what this was like a strategy. We were young. We didn't really know how to be good musicians. We didn't have any type of stage presence. So
good musicians or good performers, because there's a difference.
Both. Both. We were just an idea band. You know what I mean? It was Charlie's idea to put the Huck-A-Bucks. Well, it was his wife's idea to put the band together called the Huck-A-Bucks. And
what is that? I don't remember if I asked Ricky or Chiefy, what the hell is a Huck-A-Buck?
Huck-A-Buck is like an old Southern slang, like like young buck. It's just another term for young buck.
Okay, gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? So we were the Young Bucks, but the Huck-A-Bucks, right? So we would go out of town and we would perform in front of like in these juke joints and just like crank just till we sweating and just getting all the butterflies out. Because you know how vicious DC can be. So before we came to DC and started getting on the DC stage, we wanted to make sure we were tight.
Right.
Now the concept of the Huck-A-Bucks.
The Beatles did that. They played in Germany. They played cover songs in Germany for I don't remember how long it was, but a year to hone their chops, to get their show together, to get themselves together before they really started putting themselves out there and doing
absolutely. Yeah. So the whole concept of the Huck-A-Bucks was Charlie had this idea of making a national go-go band. He wanted the band to follow, for lack of better words, the footprint of New Edition.
Yeah.
So he wanted a boy band that could dance. So that was a big part of our thing. We had to know how to dance. We had to know how to do some light choreography, and as well as play our instruments and play well. So then that's when he got Dyke from Trouble Funk, and he didn't really fit the band too well. His style was a little too old fashioned for where Charlie wanted to see the band. So then that's when he recruited Funky Ned and of course Roy Battle, and
Yeah.
they were our musical mentors, our musical directors, to kind of teach us how to be disciplined as musicians, as well as helping with producing the performance of the shows and stuff.
Do you remember? Do you remember anything? Because I think that's sort of important. And there's a lot of talk about how the older generation doesn't really help the younger generation to teach them and learn and all that kind of stuff. And this is obviously an example where that did happen.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything specifically that they taught you that kind of like really stuck with you?
Me personally, the main thing that I learned from Funky Ned, okay, a couple things. He will always tell me to stay focused, right? Didn't know what that meant, but it all makes sense now. And then he said, it's not that you're playing the wrong note, it's just you're not playing that note right.
Right.
So I was like, what do you mean? He said, it's
heavy.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
It's not that you're not playing the right note, you're just not playing that note right. That's what it is. And then another thing, discipline wise, we would rehearse like these grueling rehearsals, man, like 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. And if you mess up, like after we got the set together, if you mess up, then everybody else had to do push-ups.
Oh wow!
And you had to sit there and watch.
Well, I need to stop there for a second. And I've done this. I talked about this with Big Tony. I talked about it with Wink. I talked about it with Kyrie. And obviously we're all a lot of us are older now, and we went through all this stuff when we were teenagers. But really, one of the common themes that is unfailing through every person that's been in a successful band that I've interviewed so far is that they've rehearsed for hours and hours, multiple times a week.
Oh yeah.
There were consequences if you did not. I mean, that's pretty gangster what you described, but there were consequences if you did not do the shit right. And that's what makes a great band.
Yeah.
And now we wonder why it ain't the same. It's because people are rehearsing for 2 hours a night, once a week. Half the band is an hour late, so you mess around and plug your stuff up and adjust your volume for 30 minutes, and you end up getting 20-30 minutes of rehearsal in, which is also usually spent by the keyboard player, no offense, learning the song that he should have learned at home.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So I hope that anybody that's watching this that's in a band, which is the whole point of this show, is to learn from people like yourself and people that have been in successful bands and know what it takes to be successful.
Oh yeah, man.
What it takes is rehearse your ass off, be prepared, and face the consequences if you mess up.
Yeah.
You
learn quick.
Everybody else in the band had to do push-ups. Of course, it's easier to do that with band members that are 15, 16 years old than 3-year-old grown men with kids. But that's gangster.
Yeah. So that was the thing. And then we worked on original songs. So if you listen to our first album, Chronic Breakdown, I mean, we got a lot of stuff that we use, like hooks and stuff that we use just in like the pocket talking and stuff. But I mean, we got original material on there, and then we wrote it along with Roy Battle, and we had some input, of course, from Charlie and Funky Ned. And that was the thing. And the first album that we did, it didn't really take off. Like we put a lot of time in that album, like over 150 hours of recording time, like studio time. Yeah.
Say that again.
We did over 150 hours of studio recording time just to get the first album together.
Right. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Like that's something I talked with Eric. I don't know if you saw the one with Eric from UCB, but we talked about, with like Wale. They play for Wale, obviously, so he knows, and they've been in the studio with them and stuff. while they did that song with Lady Gaga, they spent like 40 hours just on the hook for that
Yeah,
one song.
yeah. Oh, that's nothing, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, 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 U Street Music Group. He knows. Because we work with Citizen Cope. When
Oh
Cope
yeah,
booked
yeah.
a session, like his session, like okay, just to give you perspective, most bands that I work with in go-go, when you tell them, okay, they like, okay, we want to lay like 5 or 16 songs, right? Like, yeah, well, how
That'll
much
take 2
time you
days,
think you're
right?
gonna need? Huh?
That'll take 2 days, right?
Right, right. So they're like, okay, how much time you think we're gonna need? Well, I don't know. It really depends on the band. So, I said, well, I think we can do 5 songs within 5 hours. And I'm like, okay, we can start at 5 hours, but like, I give you just perspective. When Citizen Cope books a session with the folks I work with, okay, his session starts at 1 week, right? We're in the studio 3 days cutting drums. Who in the world? I'm sorry. I'm like you the other day. This thing is supposed to be on Do Not Disturb, but
Yeah, I still haven't. I still haven't figured out how to get my computer to be on Do Not Disturb. So even though the phone will be on, and sometimes this text will come through on the computer, I'm still working it out. Ricky said, "Tell them you wrote my first Huck-A-Bucks rap, but then I killed it myself on Chronic Breakdown." All right, hold on, Ricky. We're not the Chronic Breakdown yet.
oh
So
man.
Old School Queenie wants to know what year did the first album come out? The one that you said didn't really hit.
Okay, so that album came out in '94. We started recording at the end of '93, and it
Okay.
came out in '94.
Okay. And how many songs were on it?
I can't remember. I want to say at least 10 or 12, maybe. Yeah, I can't remember.
That's so at 150 hours, that's 15 hours per song, roughly.
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, we spent way more time on some songs than other songs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, but so like I said, when Cope comes to the studio, he'll spend 3 days just on getting a drum loop, like a 2-bar drum loop, and we're cutting to tape, like not the computer.
Oh, he's doing everything analog.
Well, we start in analog and then we dump it into Pro Tools and stuff.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so like that's just to give perspective, and we might get one song out of that 1 week, maybe. It's all about getting the right feel and all that. But
right,
yeah.
No, that's big. That's important. I hope that people pay attention to that.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so you put the first album out, and that was '94, and it didn't do as well as you expected. And then what happens?
So by this time we're gigging and we're starting to play in DC and the DMV, Maryland and Virginia. And
how long did you play out? How long did you play on the outskirts before you actually went into DC?
Probably about a year.
Okay.
Yeah. And this was like pretty much every weekend. We're doing like what I would call the chitlin circuit. Mm-hmm. It was fun, but it was crazy. But it was cool. But so we get this residency, so to speak, up at the Ibex, and then we had one at Bumpers.
For the non-initiated, a residency is basically a weekly show.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't have to be weekly, but it's a recurring show. It's not just like a one-time show. Like artists in Vegas have residencies. They might do 3-4 shows per week, or even a couple of shows a night. But we don't really call it that in go-go. But Rob is like a real professional, like a real musician guy.
Man.
That's what the real music industry calls when you play a recurring show.
Go-go is real music. What are you talking about?
Residency. Well, no, the real music industry.
Okay. Well,
absolutely real music. Go-go is better than real music. Like
exactly.
Better than.
So we got to start treating it like real music industry stuff, right?
100%. That's the whole point of this show, is to try to knock those walls down. That's why I was asking you earlier what made you say, "Oh, I'm not getting where I want to get with go-go." It's because we have these preconceptions built up in our mind about a go-go is supposed to go this way and it's supposed to go that way.
Right.
Okay, well, as soon as you knock those misconceptions out, go-go will go a lot further. So anyway,
exactly.
Go ahead.
So it was with the Huck-A-Bucks that I actually had those walls broken down, having talks with Charlie and Roy and Ned, especially Ned. I mean, he would build us up so big, man. It was crazy. So I'm like, hey, maybe we can be as big as whoever. You know what I mean?
They'd already playing with.
Oh, we froze up. You froze up. Uh-oh. Hello, hello, hello. Got lost in the sauce. It's like backwards. Normally, it's the guest that freezes up. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Okay. Oh, tight. All right, I see you now.
Okay, yeah.
All
Sorry
right,
about
cool.
the co-working space that I work out of. The internet just went out for a second, so which is weird because
Oh,
they have
okay.
like the
All
most
right, we good.
powerful internet in the history of man. I don't know. All right, we're back now. All right, sorry about that, folks. Look, we didn't. I don't think we lost anybody. So, Ricky Sass switched to Cricket Wireless. You shut it. Yeah, no, that was on my end. Usually it's on the guest end, but this time it was mine. I don't know what the hell happened. They must have
That's
reset
funny.
the router or something like that. But anyway, real quick, let me give a couple shout outs. We got BJ, my man, little BJ Young Mickey on
Oh
here.
yeah, we were in the studio last night.
Oh yeah, that's my
What
man.
up?
We got Old School Queenie. We got Straw Boss. We got JGIYA and I feel like I know who this is, and I can't because they've been on here before, but I can't remember from the YouTube name. But anyway, thanks to everybody for hanging out, and sorry for the disruption there. Where were we again? Do you remember?
We were talking about how I said. Oh, you was asking about Ned.
Oh yeah, how did Ned? So you said he built you guys up, and he sort of broke down the misconception or the any misconceptions that you might have had about stuff. Like, how did he know that? Does he just naturally know that, or had he already been out in the world playing with other? That's what I was going to say, because I feel like a lot of the bad information that's circulated around, not bad information, just mostly incorrect information that's circulated around the go-go community around how the greater music industry really works is mostly because there's a lot of barbershop guys. There's a lot of guys that have never really done anything, never really been anywhere, but they're so convinced of their specific viewpoint that this is how it works. And they just will stand on it, and they just will, it's like Donald Trump. Like, he just has no, sorry to get political, but he has, no experience in any of this shit, but he just speaks with confidence and people just believe him.
Yeah,
And so
that's the thing.
did Ned have experience outside of go-go at that point, or was it just?
Absolutely. So at the time when Ned was working with us, I don't know his whole resume, but I mean, he was working with Boyz II Men, Mariah Carey, different folks, Tony Braxton. He used to work out at a studio over in Bladensburg called Central.
Yep.
And and a lot of national acts used to come through there, and then as well as like he was with Red Essence. He had a lot of stuff going on.
Yep.
With that's Greg Rice, the JGIAR.
Oh, it is. Okay.
That's my boy Greg. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean he's been around for a minute at that particular point.
Gotcha. Yeah, I figured he was, but I just wanted to make sure for anybody that didn't know, like, that's what he was doing at the time. So that breadth of experience gave him another viewpoint to be able to say this is how this works.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I mean, he had Lockett, the TV, the movies, songs and stuff.
Yeah.
Worked the Walls, which was like a tremendous hit for DC.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where were we?
You were so we were just talking about how he sort of Funkiness sort of broke down some of those walls, but I think we were moving past the first album that
Yeah.
didn't really do that well, and then moving on to the next one.
So yeah, so when we did Huck-A-Bucks live, that was a combination of some recordings we did at the Ibex as well as Bumpers, which was in Camp Springs, and that Joker just took off, man. Like it was crazy.
Well, hold on for 1 second though, because at this time, so Ricky filled in that
Help me out, Rick.
you were doing a Black Hole too. So you're doing a Black Hole, you're doing the Ibex, you're doing Bumpers, all of these legendary tier 1 go-go spots.
Yeah.
So, but I'm trying to get to that point, because if you went from just playing outside in Virginia, or not just Virginia, but outside of the DC circuit, and then you put out an album that you're recording this album and it didn't do anything. How did you get the fan base to be playing at these premier venues?
Okay, so here's where Charlie comes in. So his strategy was okay. So like if you think back to like the early 90s and even the 80s, there were like there was like a network of promoters.
Yeah.
Right. And Charlie was in tight with all of the promoters. You know what I mean? So and his concept was he didn't really want a headlining band, because his overall goal was to make the band go national, right?
Right.
So with not having a headlining band, you can open up in like all these different venues for the headliners, right?
Okay.
And his approach was to go to the promoters and say, hey, all right, you're going to have a good show with Rare Essence, but you can get 300 extra people if you put Huck-A-Bucks on the beginning of that show.
But how do you get 300 people? Because 300 people is not a small amount of people.
Right. So
what was the forward, like what was the promotion strategy that was allowing you to bring 300 people?
The promotional strategy was us performing like a lot of outside festivals. You know what I mean? And then he put out promotional material.
What kind of promotional material?
Like flyers, PA tapes. And he would go and say, so like real promotion, he would go in areas that didn't have go-go that much, like Rockville and Bethesda. And he would go to the malls and he'll just pass out PA tapes.
So this is Charlie doing this, or was it the band doing this too?
This is Charlie. A lot of this stuff was stuff that we didn't even know about at the time.
Okay, so we're at this point where was the band involved in the promotion of themselves at all?
Not so much. No, we were concentrating on keeping the crank tight and keeping the band tight, our dance routines and all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So he had a whole promotional strategy. Yeah, so that's, I mean, and a lot of that is what kind of got the band built up. And then with the first album, it was Flavor 1580 that was on the AM, what's the name, and it was Steph Lover and DJ Cool. They broke our first couple singles. And
this was off the first record, or this was
off the first one.
Okay.
So some of the songs that was on the first album, like Sexy Girl and It's Time, were like they were like favorites amongst people that was listening to AM radio. Right.
Wait, so that was off the Chronic Breakdown?
Yeah, that was a studio recording. Those are studio recordings.
But that was off the Chronic Breakdown?
Chronic Breakdown had Sexy Girl, and it had It's Time.
I thought y'all had an album before that. Chronic Breakdown was the first album?
No, Chronic Breakdown was the first one.
Oh, okay. So so obviously it went on to do well. So when you're saying it didn't really do that well, you just mean just at the beginning.
In the beginning, no. So when we did the live album, we did a live version of Sexy Girl.
I got you.
We did a live version of It's Time. Those were the more popular recordings.
The live versions. Okay,
yeah. So those are the ones that kind of like took it over the top. And then of course the Bud,
right.
Bud was was phenomenal.
That's what brought you guys to my attention, I think. I don't remember. So what so that's an interesting thing that doesn't really happen anywhere else in the world. Why do DC people only like the, because, and this is going to tie into a production question I'm going to ask you later. Why do we only like the live version and not the studio version?
Okay, so just through my experience, I think that when you're in the studio, people in DC don't really like studio go-go so much because they feel like it's quote unquote watered down. And what watered down, I think, means to a lot of people is that the raw energy that you exert on stage, like even the tone of your voice and the intensity that you play at, it's like when you go in the studio, everything is controlled and you're trying not to do. But I'm like, yo, you have to capture what's the energy that was live in the studio, and there's a way you can do it, I think. But then also with the whole live environment, you want to feel like you're there, because if you were there, it's just kind of like I think it's like a form of nostalgia or something. Like when you hear it, it's like, oh yeah, I was at that party, that joint was lit or whatever, right? And in the studio, it's like, okay, this is like a fake party. It's not a real thing. You know what I'm saying? So I just think.
Why do we feel the need to recreate what we do on stage in the studio rather than creating something in the studio and then improving upon it on stage, which the rest of the world does?
That's a great question, man. I think mainly because no one told anyone that goes in the studio to do it differently. That might be the thing, because it's like I watch the show and I hear like what people say about different things, and honestly, I just think like if you're in the studio and you create a studio song and it has go-go in it, or it's a go-go song in the studio, there's nothing wrong with that. But don't try to perform like you're at a live concert in the studio,
right?
Because it just it's a weird thing. Like it's like, nah, I don't really like this,
Right.
But
I'm not saying that that's the only way, because my man Brooks is on here. He works with my production company 77. He says he's speaking my language. There is a way to capture it, and I'm sure there is. And the technology now is advanced to the to the way that we could do it. And he says rock music is able to get it done all the time. I don't know. I don't know if I'd necessarily agree with that. I think that I mean, we can go on about that later, But I do think that from a go-go perspective, I think we shoot ourselves in the foot by continuing to try to make it sound like a live show, as opposed to just creating something cool that has the go-go percussion. Because in my opinion, if you watch the show, you know that my opinion is that the percussion is what makes it go-go, because like you could take the lead talker off, you can take all the other things that we associate with, or you can take them off. But if the percussion's there, people from home still say that's go-go. Exactly. So that's the determining factor. So to me, if you create something with that percussion in the studio, it doesn't have to be what it sounds like you do on stage. Okay. It just has to be cool. And then you take that cool, and it has to be a great song that people are going to remember. And then when people remember that, then you can do this. Like it's the same thing we do with cover songs, right? We take a song that was recorded in the studio, Mary J. Blige or like Ashley Simpson, Pieces of Me. Ashley Simpson wasn't trying to recreate a live version of what she would have done on stage.
I recorded that song, by the way.
The Pieces of Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me tell you a quick story.
I want to talk about all the stuff that you recorded.
Let me tell you a quick story about that one.
Go ahead.
That wasn't even supposed to be the single.
That's usually how it happens.
I set the mix up for that. Like I recorded it live at the Trade Winds. That's Shorty Dud on drums.
Is it?
Yeah. Blue Eye got into a scuffle or something on the way. Like it was a drive-by shooting somewhere, and he got grazed, so he had to go to the hospital.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So Shorty Dud had to play the drums.
Dang.
Right? That's the song they opened up with on the set. They did that song to make sure I had all the levels correct so that they could move on to the real set.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I set the so the
So,
after.
so
Go
they
ahead.
hadn't already really been playing. Like people weren't already reacting to that song. They just
No,
kind
that was the first. That was the first time they played that song.
oh wow,
It
that's
was the
a crazy
first time.
story.
That was the first time they played the song. The next day, Googie was supposed to come in to mix the CD or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I set everything up, pretty much patched in all his compressors and gates and all that stuff, studio tech stuff. Set the
Studio nerd,
EQs. Huh?
studio nerd stuff.
Yeah. Set the EQs and everything. He literally spent about 10 or 15 minutes on that one particular cut, and then went on to spend like the next 3 days on the rest of the album. And that's the one that took off.
That's yeah. That just goes to show you. You never that just put shit out. Just put shit out, and people will react to what they want to react to. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But yeah, that's crazy. Anyway, I don't want to interrupt your story
Right.
because of me, but my thing is just that when the original like go into the studio, record a song that you're trying to make a song. Just put go-go percussion on it, and then when you play live, do the same thing you do to your own song.
Right.
You do to cover songs.
Right.
Make that shit live for the show.
Yeah.
You keep trying to recreate what you do live on stage in the studio, it's never going to translate.
Right. Okay.
Well, maybe not never, but it's very difficult to make it translate. So anyway, so go ahead. Then what happened?
I'm cool with that. Where were we?
We were Chronic Breakdown. You did then you did the live versions of the songs, and then
and that stuff, the live stuff, it was crazy. It started taking off like crazy. People were requesting the stuff on the radio. And see, another thing people don't realize, like we submitted our stuff, or we had vinyl printed of all that stuff, and we had it in the record pools. So
for people that don't know, can you explain what a record pool is?
So record pool is an organization or a community of DJs. They all come together, and they get free records from all the labels. You know what I mean? And in return for getting the free records, they're asked to play the records and test them out on their audiences, like on the weekends or on the week during the week, whatever their performance times are or whatever. And they have to report back to the labels what the response was and the reaction was to the songs that they got from the labels. So Charlie was tight with Eardrum, who had like probably one of the biggest record pools in this area.
Yep, in the Mid-Atlantic. Yep.
Yeah. So and he had like show you how things worked back then, man. He had like I think like 150 DJs at the time. So so that means 300 12-inch records that we had to have pressed up, because they got to have two so they can mix it in.
Yep, so they can mix it. Yep.
And like every weekend, like all of his DJs are working. So, Storm and Norman, for instance, he might do like 4 or 5 parties, and each party may have anywhere between 300 to 500 people. Right. So that's like maybe 1,200 people that's getting exposed to your record in one weekend times 150.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So you can get a whole lot of exposure through the record pools back then, in just like a week or two. So,
but it's also you got to have a great record to begin with.
Oh yeah,
and because they're not just going to play it just to play it. Like they'll play it, but if people don't react to it, they're not going to play it again.
Exactly.
So yeah, but that goes to market. Everybody talks about marketing and promotion as if that's the solution to everything. If your product is shit, you can market and promote the hell out of it, and it doesn't matter. And I know people think, oh, well, all this crap that's on the radio now and WAP and, that's crap. And but that's subjective.
Yeah.
More people like WAP than don't like WAP. You know what I'm saying? So just because you don't think it's good doesn't mean that it's not good and people aren't reacting to it. Mm-hmm. So you got to create something that makes sense, that is that appeals to your target demographic. You may be the target demographic of the Huck-A-Bucks or Cardi B, but there is a target demographic and there is a group of people that like them. So make something for the people that are going to like it, and then you market and promote it. Don't worry about marketing and promoting it until you got something good.
Yeah.
And the way you do that is you just make a whole bunch of shit and you put it out and you see what people react to. You can, especially now, put it out on SoundCloud, and if people start listening to it, then cool. If they don't, make something else. Anyway, I'm sorry that I keep interrupting you in your story, but you just touching on a lot of good shit that's really important to the whole point of this show, which is to try to get some of this good information, you know, from people that are working with, you know, with it. And you yourself, you know, like you're working with artists like Citizen Cope, and maybe some people don't know who he is, but he's a very popular artist who's also married to another very popular artist. So there's a lot of who's from DC, and you know, you know, in a different genre of music. But that's the thing, you got a more well-rounded, just sort of level of knowledge. And that's what I was getting at with the Funky Ned thing earlier. Like the more you get exposure to other kinds of music and the way things work in other places, the more you can apply it to yours. But it seems like in go-go, we just have these blinders and this silo, and we're like, it has to be this way, and then we wonder why it doesn't work. So
I used to be like that, man. I seen different things though.
It's a really tough thing to break out of, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I was in it too, you know, like I didn't know. I was the same thing as you, like I'm 15, 16, I don't know.
When you know better, you try to do better, right?
Yeah, exactly. So all right, so keep going with your story. And so
where were we? So the Huck-A-Bucks live, I mean, it started blowing up on the radio like crazy. Oh, so let me touch on something real quick. You say marketing promotion doesn't really matter that much if the record is some trash, right? But
yes. But the record being trash is subjective, of course.
Exactly. So I don't know, man, because I feel like if a record is some trash, if you promote the mess out of it, you can turn some trash into something that's palatable.
I don't agree with that. What I think is, and just like what you just described with the record pool, is that the label said we're gonna put out all these records and we're going to test them. We're going to test them with these DJs through this record pool, and that when we see that there's something bubbling, the record labels are spending very little money to you know, comparatively speaking to what they spend on full marketing budgets to press vinyl and send them out. Now it's a lot for somebody like a Charlie who's an independent label, but if you're Warner Music Group, like pressing up 300 vinyl records, you know, in a city is not a lot. So they're doing that, and then just like you said, the DJs are reporting back to the label saying these are the ones that are catching fire.
Right.
Then that's when you spend the money on marketing and promotion. Now you can the first part is marketing and promotion. And yes, testing is part of it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But you don't really pour the gas on stuff until you start to see that there's some momentum. And that's what I keep trying to tell these go-go bands now is just keep putting shit out on SoundCloud. And then once you see one or two tracks that people are starting to gravitate towards, then that's when you start spending some money on ads and shit like that, and maybe trying to do other methods. So anyway, but yeah, so that's what I'm getting at. So, so obviously Huck-A-Bucks in a fairly short period of time blew up into like one of the biggest go-go groups and most influential of all time. When did it end? When did the Huck-A-Bucks end? Because I want to get to all your other
so the band started to dissolve probably like around 90, 98, 99.
Why?
And you know, I really don't know why, honestly. I think people, so I think it's probably like some folks in the group had their vision or their idea of where they wanted to be, right, with go-go. You know, some of them had the blinders on, right? And then some other folks in the group, we were still shooting for going like, you know, major,
national,
big time or whatever. And I think it was just kind of a clash in that. And then some folks started leaving the group that was like major parts of the chemistry. So we were like scrambling to try to, fill those voids. And at that point, like the momentum started dying down a little bit, and then the creativity that that was there in the beginning and the hunger that was there started to kind of like dying out to a certain degree. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it was a struggle to try to like keep it going. You know what I mean? When everybody's not on the same page.
Right.
Like we were on the same page, man. We were like unstoppable. But
What do you think? And this is important because this is something that obviously that I experienced with Mambo Sauce too. What what why do you think people started like was everybody at the beginning was everybody like this is going to be a national act, or was it from the beginning some people thought we're just going to be Rare Essence, or no, not that
I,
that's a bad
yeah,
thing.
no, I don't think everyone got it in the beginning. I
Okay.
think it was like, okay, in the beginning, we're all young. We don't have any responsibilities. You know what I mean? This is fun. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You out there, you partying, you having a good time, you meeting folks and stuff. But when I saw that, okay, this has some real potential. You know what I mean? So at the point where it was kind of like bubbling up and blowing up in the DC region, because it was like here all the way down to North Carolina, all the way over to Delaware,
Mhm.
and even some parts of like Maine and stuff, right? Um, because those were like places where we actually promoted the band or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, I think when it got to that particular level, that was just really for us the foot in the door. But to
Right.
a lot of the folks in the group, I think it was just like, oh yeah, we done made it. Like this is it. And I'm
That's
like, nah,
exactly what happened with Mambo Sauce.
like no, this is not it. This is just a window into what could really be. You know what I'm saying? Like we trying to get there, but we got to keep pushing, and things just started falling apart. People had things that they put in front of the band, so to speak. Like okay, people having babies and stuff, and it's like okay, yeah, man, I gotta do this, which is I understand that, but at the same time, it just was unfortunate
Yeah.
because you're like pulling away from something that we all push towards, and then it's like everybody started thinking like, okay, this can't really happen. But I mean, I still felt like, yeah, it can. Like we just got to stay focused, as
Right.
Ned would tell us.
Right. Well, so I don't want to go. I don't want to get too far off your story, but it's just like you're just bringing up so much stuff that is just. I mean, that's just. I don't understand why we as people in go-go think that there's a limit on what we can do, especially now. And
Oh
granted,
yeah,
a lot of us are older or whatever, but especially now, when you see there are like, Wale, Shy Glizzy, Rico Nasty, Zan Man,
yeah,
Logic, Tabby
yeah,
Benet, I'm saying?
yeah,
Like all these other artists from DC.
yeah. Maggie Rogers.
Yeah, Maggie, right? Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even gonna, go that far, but
You
yeah,
know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Alice Smith, Citizen Cole,
Exactly.
like lots of artists from DC have figured out how to become, more successful on a national level.
Yeah.
Why do we place the limitations on ourselves?
I don't know. It's definitely mentality, but I don't think I know the answer, man. Like honestly,
I
like
do. I
okay,
do.
tell me
I
about
know part of it. I know part of it. Part of it is because if you are if you are Citizen Cope in 1990 or 1989 or 1991,
it. Hmm.
right? Before, I don't remember the first hit song he came out with, but I know it was in like the early 90s.
Hmm.
Um, you are starving. You are driving around the country in a van or a Yeah, Brooks. Yeah, well, funny. I just talked to the guys from Good Charlotte the other day. Yeah, Good Charlotte, YBN Corday. I didn't know Periphery was from DC either, but there's another band. Tool. It's not Tool, but it's Clutch. Maybe there's another like rock. It's like a metal-ish rock band that is like they love go-go. I can't remember which one it is right now, but they're popular. But anyway, so the point being that if you're an artist that is aspiring to be national, and you're starting to build your fan base in areas outside of DC, you are starving. You are living hand to mouth. You are driving around in a van or a car all around the country, eating ramen noodles, and you are sleeping on people's couches. And you know what I'm saying? You're and you're probably making $0 every night out there pouring your heart out after you just drove 6 hours to get to the next show, and you're trying to sell one t-shirt, you know what I mean, to make some money. Bad Brains, yep, good example. So Red, Gold, Green. If you are, and say that's you're an artist, you're playing, you know, you might do a 2-week tour or whatever, month tour. If you're in a go-go band, you're making $150 a night, or even $75 a night, you know, $50 a night, whatever. Like, I'm gonna tell you, a lot of artists that you've heard of that are touring right now would kill to make $50 a night. Right now. You know what I'm saying? So, and not to mention $250 a night. Mm-hmm. So if you're in a band that's playing 3 nights a week, and you know you're making $100 a night, you're making $300 a week, or you know 400, 500, whatever it is, however much money you're making a week, you're doing better than your average touring musician. Yeah. However, if you're Citizen Cope and you're living in your van and you're you're eating the ramen noodles and stuff like that, yeah, you're doing that at the beginning. Mm-hmm. But the best case scenario as a go-go band is that you are, that you make $250, $300, maybe $500, maybe $1,000 a night at the top of the food chain. Top of the food chain. You know what I mean? Citizen Cope, right now, I'm looking him up. His average tickets sold are 713. His average gross is $28,000. Right? Mm-hmm. Based upon a standard touring formula, and this is a rule of thumb, it's not exact by any means necessary. But mm-hmm. my guess is, it's roughly 60%. So what's that? 60% of roughly $30,000 is around $18,000. So he's probably making $18,000 per show. Mm-hmm. He's probably, $10,000 of that goes to expenses. Mm-hmm. $8,000 of that goes to Citizen Cope. And this is we're talking about a person that probably most of the people watching this don't even know who he is. Right. But he's probably making $8,000 per night. Now, granted, he's not playing 3-4 nights a week. You know what I'm saying? But we're talking about a relatively successful artist, not a wildly successful artist, just some, you know what I'm saying, that's known in some circles. But what I'm saying is that in my personal opinion, I think that if Go-Go got itself together, we're fucking Beyonce up. We're fucking everybody up. Yeah, right? Absolutely. So if we can figure that formula out. So what I'm saying is Beyonce gets a couple $1 million a show. All right. You know what I'm saying? She only got to play a couple times a year. You know what I mean? She got makeup line, all types of shit. You know what I'm saying? So my point is that why do we not think that we can do that?
I think the main thing is we never saw anyone in our circles do it. Right. Once we see someone do it, then it's like, oh, well, maybe it can be done. But 100%. I'm like, you see everybody else doing it.
Right. And other people from DC. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's not like when you put congos on a song that automatically means you can't make it. Right. It just means that you're not making songs in the same way that people in other genres are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if that to me, that's the one thing that's keeping go-go from international success.
Okay.
Songs, hit records.
Yeah.
If you can figure that out, you're fucking everything up.
Yeah.
And even George, I was just listening yesterday. I'm gonna post it to Questlove podcast on Apple Music. He was talking to George Clinton the other day. George Clinton's like the industry. The industry doesn't want go-go to make it.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and that's because they know we will fuck shit up.
I'm gonna give you another little quick story. We played
Please.
with Destiny's Child.
Mhm.
We was like on a little 3 college tour.
Yep.
This is like mid 90s, late 90s or whatever. And we would open up like right before Destiny's Child.
Mhm.
And Matthew, which was their manager at the time, like we were contracted for like a 45-minute set,
Yep.
right? He would come on after about 15, 20 minutes. All right, y'all gotta cut it.
Yeah,
Y'all gotta
yep.
cut it. And at the time, they were just a track act.
Yep.
And what that means is they were doing like all this stuff was programmed on a DAT tape, and
Yep.
they had dancers and stuff. But he had to have time for the audience to chill out because
Yep.
we would have them so revved up with our band that it was no way that they could go on behind us without
Right.
that buffer. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with what you're saying. Yeah, I just
So okay. So the Huck-A-Bucks ultimately falls apart. So how did you end up sticking with Charlie and starting to work in the studio and becoming a producer?
well, I fell in love with producing and recording. Um, we did this Coca-Cola commercial with the Huck-A-Bucks, and what we did was we took a rendition of Bud, the Bud, and used it for Coca-Cola.
I remember that. I think I
Remember
had like a little CD printed up. I think I had
that?
it.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
So with that process, okay. So at the time, I was interning at Charlie's studio, so I wanted
How
to
did that
learn.
come about though? What made you intern at his studio?
I don't know. I wanted to be more involved with the whole process of recording and knowing how to record and producing and all that.
So you just asked him, "Can I intern with you?"
No, I was just pretty much hanging out at the studio every day. And then he came to me. It was like, hey man, well since you're hanging out and helping out, with sessions and stuff, we're gonna put you on like a paid internship, and then we'll teach you stuff about Roy.
Again, come on, man. You just dropping shit left and right. So again, and this was something I think I talked to a white boy about the other day that I heard on a different podcast. You were increasing the surface area of luck, meaning you're throwing yourself in the way of something that is happening.
Absolutely.
You asked Hug, could you try out for Northeast Groovers? Man, it didn't work out, but you shot your shot. You are talking to, you're saying, hey, Charlie, I'm just going to come help you. Same thing happened with me before I managed Ajamani. I just was like, Marlon, your place is a wreck. Let me help you clean this shit up. I just helped him clean the place up. I organized it so well. He's like, I need you to manage this whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Because it's called taking initiative. And it's not something that very many people in go-go do. But if you notice the thread of the stories, most of the people that are successful that I interview in go-go, they all took initiative. They threw themselves in the way of something they wanted, and they increased the surface area of luck. Like, yeah, luck is a thing, but you can put yourself in a position to be lucky by taking a bunch of chances on trying to make something happen. So, okay, so you started interning, and then the Coca-Cola thing happened.
Yeah, so I was pretty much instrumental on the whole process, like as far as like miking up the drums and wiring up the studio and patching all the stuff in the patch bay to make it work. And then after everybody came and laid their parts, me and Roy and I were just in there laying all the keyboard parts and just working with the samples and everything, and working with the mix of the song and all that stuff. And I'm just sitting there just learning, absorbing all this stuff, and it's like super intriguing to me. So I kind of fell in love with being in the studio from the process of doing the Coke commercial.
Nice.
And then from that, I mean, I was in the studio like pretty much every day,
Right.
learning stuff, just experimenting with things, and oh, what does this sound like if I do this? Or I'm gonna use this kind of mic. Why you got to use a 57 on the cowbell? Why I'm not using a condenser mic? Boom! Oh, that's why you use a 57.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
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 So I mean, yeah, I just fell in love with the process, and it just became my passion.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Kenny, my man Kenny Woodley is on here. Kenny that takes the pictures, and
Oh, what up, today?
he used to have, I don't know if you know, but he used to have a store in Annapolis that was right at the end of my street. So I would go down there and always try to pitch him my old band's tapes and stuff like that. But he says ideas make money, not people. And I would disagree with that slightly. Execution makes money.
There you go.
It's all good. People have ideas all day. Unless you do something about it, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? But you're right though. So tell us about stuff that, I mean, you told us about Pieces of Me already. Tell us about some stuff that you worked on and from the production studio end.
Man, so much stuff, I guess.
Break it down.
Yeah, I was just like you said, I was just in the way, man. Hey, we trying to do a live recording. All right, where we at? We at Byron Manor. All right, boom. What song was that? 3 in the morning, the Pancake House.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't
overnight scenario. You did that?
I wasn't doing the mixing, but I was recording a lot of this stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Like, just think of something. I was okay. So another part of it, which kind of like had me in the way of a lot of people and networking, was I had the musical rental department. I don't know if you remember that or not. Thump Musical Rentals. So all right. So Thump Musical Rentals was a division of Thump Studio.
Backline,
yeah.
Backline. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So Thump. So just for everybody, so Thump Studios is Charlie's studio, right? And then the Thump Musical Rentals was the backline company.
Yeah, we would rent backline keyboards, Fender Rhodes, and whatever we didn't have, we would rent from Drums Unlimited, which was like our only competition at the time.
Yeah.
And go and do these shows and festivals and everything. And we got up to a point where we were doing like between like 15, 20 shows a week. Wow. And this was like during the time when the Huck-A-Bucks was kind of like somewhat on a hiatus. We were kind of like only doing like maybe 1 or 2 shows a month. And kind of lost my train of thought, but the whole with why I was saying that. But like with doing that, okay, so with doing that, I saw a lot of stuff as far as like the business side, the promotion side, dealing with club owners and stuff, and seeing the kind of numbers that's coming in and out of the clubs and stuff. Hitting on bands like Subtle Thoughts and different groups. Hey, just come over to the studio and record. I'll record you. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's just been like a whole kind of whirlwind of stuff, throughout the years.
I need to interrupt you more, I guess, because when I interrupt you and like 5 minutes later after I'm done running my mouth, you remember what we were talking about.
Right.
You're like, oh, I lost my train of thought. So I need to interrupt you more, I guess.
Yeah, man.
So no, you were talking about different stuff that you had recorded. So you did you recorded Pieces of Me. You recorded Overnight Scenario. You didn't mix them, but you recorded them.
Right.
So Overnight Scenario was a live recording.
Oh yeah. That was Environment. Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's so much stuff, man. It's hard to remember all the stuff. It's just, to me, it comes and I do it, and then that was cool,
Right.
On to the next one.
Why? This is what I told you I was going to circle back here, because I really want to. Why is it so hard to? I mean, we sort of touched on it, but why is it so hard to balance the grit of the I'm trying to, like, the power and the grit of the live go-go with the polish of a national record? You said you feel confident that you can capture it. How can you capture it? What is the, like, I really want to try to dig into, like, how do we crack this code? How do we make national records that still sound like go-go?
Well, I mean, it depends on your taste, right? Because it's like, how does Pharrell do a go-go track that gets Grammys and stuff? How does Jill Scott and everybody else that we always talk about? How do they do it? It's like, so I think it's like the taste, you know what I mean? We're so stuck on the way that we want the DC sound to sound, that it just stays in DC. Like, and I heard you ask 32. That was an interesting conversation, man.
We always go. Same thing with I was talking shit about Hug earlier. Me and Deuce, we always. That's how we always talk. It's just me. You get me and Hug in a room, and it will be a 3-part circular, triangular shouting match of but it's all love. It's all love.
Yeah. You were talking about how come go-go can't just be like a 4-piece group? Can be. Pharrell is a 1-piece group.
Yep.
I mean, you still gonna say, oh, this got that go-go feel. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. Like, I think if you want to have the grit in your record, you just gotta have the right producer to know how to get that type of grit onto a recording where it still sounds gritty, but it still sounds clean. You know what I mean?
Has it been done before? And if so, how? What songs do you think? Like, are there any songs in go-go that you feel like have hit that mark?
I don't know, because I don't always listen to go-go to get like ideas for recording. You know what I mean? I will tell you this, like, Biggie's first album, I forgot the name of it. Ready to Die. Yeah. To me, that was like the epitome of clean dirt.
Yeah.
Like having those raw hip hop drums, but sound so crispy and clean. So I use that kind of like in the back of my mind as a template of how to, like, so if I can get some nasty, dirty go-go sound, how do I make it clean but still sound nasty? Like, because it's a certain nastiness that it has to have.
Well, at least some of that album was produced by Chucky Thompson, who comes from go-go. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So Ricky's on here. He says Kenny Mix is on this live right now. He mixes for all the hip hop artists in the industry.
Yeah, so he's not a mixer. He's a mastering engineer.
Master engineer. Okay, so he's a master.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Shout out to Kenny, man. That's my man right there.
Yeah. That's what's up. Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah. Brooks says his opinion is compression and harmonic distortion from the preamps.
Hey, that's a big dirty, but that's definitely a big part of it. Definitely a big part of it. But like I say, it goes into taste. You know what I'm saying? Wow. Yeah. And then going back to Kenny Mix, man, he schooled me on coding. You know what I'm saying? Which is very, very astronomically important for a lot of artists. When you're putting out your music, you got to make sure you get your ISRC codes and
all that stuff. Yeah,
because that is like that is your goal. That's the ticket for. Okay, you put out something and it just goes viral, right? And if you're not attached to it, then you're viral, but you're not getting any of the residuals from that.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So you gotta get the metadata and your recording code.
International Standard Recording Code.
Yeah, ISRC code. Well, it's even more than that. You got to do the whole. You got to do the ISRC code, and you got to do the whole metadata thing, so that it all comes up. But I don't want to get too. Brooks is on here trying to turn this conversation nerd. This is not a production show, Brooks. Okay, no, but it's fun. I asked the question, so he answered it. Funny. I'm just fucking with Brooks. But so now I guess what I'm saying is, I mean, do you feel like what are the biggest records in go-go? There's the Butt, there's Overnight Scenario could be one, Lock It could be one. Is there do we need to, I guess I'm just trying to get to the root of this music is so powerful.
Yeah,
I've talked to other people. I came to it semi late. Like sixth grade is when I first, I played in sort of 11 years old. I played a talent show and we played go-go, and I didn't even know what it is. They were like, "Hey, can you play guitar in this talent show?" And we're playing go-go, and I was like, "What is that?" They're like, "You ever heard of Chuck Brown?" I was like, "I heard of James Brown. I don't know what Chuck Brown is." But I didn't really start playing go-go until I was like 15.
All right.
And, so, but people that come, even people like I interviewed Dr. Natalie Hopkinson, on here a few weeks ago, and she's not even from DC. She was working for the Washington Post, and she found out about it, and now she's like partner. She's a part of the Don't Mute DC thing. It's just like this music and this culture is so powerful that people that aren't even from DC are just drawn into it as soon as they really understand the context. Mm-hmm. But the context is too hard to export en masse. It's too niche. So if you come here and you really start to immerse yourself in the culture, I shouldn't say here because I'm in LA now, but if you come to DC and you immerse yourself into the culture, it's irresistible. There's no way you're not going to become a fan.
Right.
But you can't export that culture on a mass level at least I don't think you can. Maybe there is a way that you can. Technically you can do anything, but I'm just saying, how do we twist the knob this way and twist the knob that way, a little bit to, because Afrobeat is not a new thing.
Exactly.
Afrobeat's been around for many, many years.
Right. Yeah. And it's
only within the last 5 or 6 years has it really permeate the mass culture.
Yep.
How did they do that, and how can we do that for go-go? Is what I'm saying. And you should know because you're working on Afrobeat stuff right now. So you got to have the answers. Figure it out right now, Rob. You gotta solve the problem we haven't been able to solve for 45 years. It's all on your shoulders.
I agree to a lot that you say with as far as making sure that the sound quality is to a certain level, to that is palatable for people outside of DC. Mm-hmm. As far as pushing the culture, is I think that is something that has to be kind of organically done. But as far as pushing the music, I think the musicians and people that are involved with it they gotta want to do it. They gotta want to. It's got to be a goal to do it, and then they have to do their homework, their research, their legwork, and put. Any artist, when you talk about going national, go-go is one thing, okay, but an artist, period. What's the difference between go-go and the person that's doing, folk per se? You know what I'm saying?
Well, one difference is the folk artist probably doesn't have an 11-piece band where 10 of the 11 people have different opinions on what they think success is.
Well, there you go. There's your answer.
Yep. That's what I've been saying.
Everybody's got to be on the same page.
Yeah.
And then not just on the same page. Yeah, I'm gonna agree with them just so we can get through the night because I know we got 3 more shows coming up and I got to pay my light bill. Yeah. Nah, you got to really genuinely want to be, where you got to be on. Everybody's got to be on the same page to get to where they're trying to get to. And is
it too late? Are we too old? Like you said, you mentioned before we got on, you were having a conversation with your son about being successful. Does your son like go-go? Does he care? He's 19?
He's 18.
18. Does he give a shit about go-go at all?
Not so much. He likes new impressions. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
He likes the home team stuff, but it's not like something that moves him. He's in the film. You know what I mean? So he don't have my musical genes. He's creative.
Do you know if any of his friends like go-go? Like, I'm just concerned that we were talking earlier about the way that the reason that Huck-A-Bucks was able to do all of the things that Huck-A-Bucks was able to do, and insert any name of any other successful go-go band, Rare Essence, Northeast Groovers, Backyard, whatever. The reason they were able to do what they were doing is because you started when you were 15 years old. You didn't have any responsibilities. You rehearsed 5 times a week for 8 hours a day, and you were able to get so tight. And then as time went on, you just got better and better and better and better and better. There's no 15-year-olds making go-go bands now that I'm aware of.
Right.
So did we miss the boat, or do you think there's still a chance? Like, it really only if we agree that you only need one person to do it, because we just find an artist, and like, instead of Roy Battle producing a 11-piece band, you Roy Battle to produce one. I mean, Roy Battle or whoever else, you know what I'm saying? Probably somebody younger now, but produce for an artist, and then you just hire the band.
I don't see why that can't work. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we are stingy with this thing, though. I mean, like DMV people, we're stingy with go-go, like, but I think I really don't know, man. Like, I don't know.
It's crazy.
It's so exclusive.
Why do you think that? I mean, this is sort of a digression slightly, but why do you think that more people don't use like the templates that work? Like, most popular music like has a lot of similar elements. Like, even if you're talking about like trap and EDM, and even if you got like some of the new kind of retro-y hip hop, like the Griselda stuff, like, it still like sort of has some elements of other types of hip hop that are going on. And why does go-go insist on saying we want to grip so tightly to the parts of go-go that have proven not to work anywhere else but DC, instead of the parts that do, and then complain that nobody else likes go-go?
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. I guess it's just, I don't know, man. It's just the way that it feels to DC folks. It's just like, we don't want it. I don't know. You got me. What do you think?
It baffles me too, because I've never felt that way. Like, I've always, from the very first time I started playing go-go, I mean, and I'm sure my thought patterns have matured over time, but I was always like, in my first band, you remember how back in the 90s, we wouldn't do a straight up cover song. We would take like a hook from here, a guitar lick from here, or whatever from here, And even then I was like, why are we doing this? Why are we not making up our own shit? Like, This is stupid. Like, why are we doing this? And then it's like even devolved, I mean, whether, obviously that's my opinion, and some people feel it differently, but now it's just like, you just play the straight up song the way it is with a pocket beat under it, and that's it. And call it a night, get your $150 and go home.
Right. And maybe that's part of it. We're just spoiled. We're spoiled that way.
I think that's a big part of it. And that's why I've sort of like, in the back of my mind, sort of like, remember when they were shutting all the venues down, and like Jack Johnson was like trying to, shut go-go down everywhere. I kind of was like, I almost wish he's successful, because then go-go bands will have to adapt and figure out another way to make money. You know what I mean? And to be, because if you can like rehearse for 2 hours a night, learn the song at rehearsal, go and like play sloppily, sing off key, and still make $150 a night 3 times a week, what's your motivation for doing anything more?
Right.
And just like you just said, like, there's no example of a go-go band like being successful on a larger level. You know what I'm saying? But there's definitely examples of people inspired by go-go taking go-go music and the sound and becoming significantly more successful. Now it's not like it's not like Pharrell is a go-go artist. He's an artist that does some go-go shit. There's Jill Scott has a go-go song, whatever. There's here and there. But I just feel like it's just so frustrating to me because I just know that if there was a band that was able to figure out how to write hit songs on a consistent basis.
That's the thing.
And as soon as you put them on a stage with any of these other artists, they're fucking everybody.
Yeah,
and granted now,
and there might be some groups like that we just don't know about yet. They're in the woodshed, just like the Huck-A-Bucks were for like almost 2 years.
Man, please show yourself.
I know, you know what I mean? And come to Thump Studio so we can record you.
Right.
And I'll make sure.
I like Black Alley is really close. I really like what they do. They're an amazing band.
Oh yeah.
I just feel like, and they're a little bit subjected to another mentality that I see that is really prominent in go-go that is counterintuitive, and it's well, I think my position is counterintuitive to what people think. Great, like there's a lot of great musicians in go-go, right? There's a lot of guys that can really, really play. And if you're a musician and I'm a musician, the way that I can impress you is by saying, I can play everything. I can play jazz, I can play gospel, I can play rock, I can play go-go, I can play this, I can play that, I can play that. But there's a difference between a musician and an artist, and very few artists try to make their name as an artist by playing 17 different genres of music.
Oh, right. Yeah.
They play what, like you mentioned, Destiny's Child. I use them as an example all the time, or Beyonce as an example all the time. Beyonce didn't come out with the first Destiny's Child album and then make Lemonade.
Right.
She progressed over a long period of time from being this pop girl group, you know, she was that for a very, very long time. Yeah. Created a very strong brand, you know what I'm saying, with that fan base. And she ran a super high risk by switching that brand to more of the, you know, sexual kind of rapping, ratchet, gutter type stuff. You know what I'm saying? And she's been able to do it, but not many artists are able to do that.
Yeah.
But I think that go-go musicians and go-go bands, I don't even remember how I got on this topic, but they don't focus enough on creating a sound. Oh, it was Black Alley. That's what it was.
Oh, right.
Black Alley does it sort of. They're not as bad at it as some bands, but they still do it. Whereas they'll have an R&B song, a neo soul song, a trap song, a rock song, a go-go song, this song, that song. And so for anybody that doesn't understand that that's what go-go does, we just take other genres of music and put it into go-go or over go-go, a go-go beat, I should say. They don't understand what to grab onto. If I'm from Detroit, I don't know, like if I'm like, oh, I like that song by that band Black Alley, the Artist's Prayer or whatever. That's like a melodic, jazzy-ish, neo-soulish type of tune. And then all of a sudden you go to their new album and I hear a song Connect, which is like my favorite song by them. And it's like some rock, trap, rapping, hood, gutter shit. And I'm like, is this even the same band? You know? And so I think that's a lot of the problem too. And that also comes from, Black Alley is a relatively small band, but that also comes from having a band with a lot of people. To me, I feel like a lot of the problems with go-go is attached to the fact that we have extremely large bands where most of the people in the bands are actually members of the band, as opposed to we have a vocalist who's the artist and everybody else is hired. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So I feel like a lot of it stems from that, because if you got
so what about, like, for instance, the Foo Fighters, which is a band, but they are also the artists.
Yeah, but how many people are in the Foo Fighters?
There's 6 but then
Full-time members?
yeah,
Is it really?
yeah, and
I
then they
thought
have
that I thought the original guitar player only plays with them sometimes, and he's the sixth member. I thought it was five, and then he only plays with them
no
sometimes.
just keyboard players. Keyboard players added a little later, but
Gotcha.
yeah. And then I mean, we're talking about a whole another level of production, but they had okay, so you got six people on stage.
Yep.
There's like five or six techs behind stage. Each
Yep.
person has their own tech.
Yep.
But you know, you got to have some hit records.
Right. Well, and Foo Fighters is a great example. Have you ever watched their documentary about how they started?
Which one?
I don't remember what it was called, to be honest with you, but it was like about how, you know, it was really more about Dave Grohl, I guess I should say. It was a Dave Grohl documentary, and it is a perfect example. Dave Grohl was the drummer in the biggest band in the entire world. Nirvana was by far the biggest band in the entire world. He was super multi famous. Okay, Brooks said that the guitar, I forget the guitar player's name, but he was like originally was with some other really popular band. I forget his name. Okay. So you're literally talking about the biggest band in the entire world. We're not talking about the biggest band in DC. We're talking about the biggest band in the entire world, Nirvana, right? Dave Grohl decided to start Foo Fighters. Did Foo Fighters start playing at 2,000 capacity venues or stadiums? No. If you watch the documentary, Dave Grohl, a huge mega rock star, got his ass in a van and drove around to play a whole bunch of little shitty clubs for no money to build the documentary of that band. Yeah. So that's my thing is that no, it's not Sonic Highways. That's the HBO.
I know what you're talking about, but then going back to what you were saying earlier too, right? You know, after thinking about that documentary, he was the visionary.
Yeah.
And he did all of the demos himself.
Yep.
And he called his boys, hey man, will y'all ride with me with this vision?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
But also Dave Grohl is a different type of animal. Like he comes from a different world. And I remember, so Dave Grohl came from the DC punk rock scene, hardcore scene. He played in a band called Scream. That band Scream used to open for Trouble Funk and all this. That's why he loves Trouble Funk so much. But there's a very different ethos. So there's a guy named Ian MacKaye, who is the founder of Discord Records, right? Which is a very famous punk rock label. Ian MacKaye is very well known in that circle. In that circle, him and Dave Grohl know each other, whatever.
Right.
I did an interview on NPR. This is when Mambo Sauce was hot. I did an interview on NPR with Ian MacKaye. First of all, let me just tell you that Ian MacKaye is a punk rock dude, and he knew more about go-go than I did, and I had already been playing it for
yeah.
So, but he was talking about how the difference between the hardcore scene, the hardcore punk rock scene, and go-go was that the hardcore punk rock scene, they're very what they call DIY scene, the do it yourself. They just do everything themselves. They start their own record labels. They print their own shit. They do all their own stuff. Yeah, Wallflowers. That was the band that that the guitar player played for. So, so Brooks on here with the encyclopedia of knowledge. Thank you, Brooks. So Pat Smear. Yeah, that's his name. Strawball. Yeah, Pat Smear. I couldn't think of his name. But so. And he was talking about go-go. He was like, a lot of these punk bands got out because they weren't just doing it for the money. They were doing it for the passion and the love that they had for the music. And that's where Dave Grohl comes from. I'm not saying that's good or bad. Like some people are in it for the money. Some people are in it for the music. Right. That's great, whatever, but that's what Dave Grohl was doing it for, not with the Foo Fighters thing. It wasn't just to make the money, because he probably could have gotten hired as a drummer to go play for some, like any other major huge band in the world would have killed to have Dave Grohl play for them. Yeah. But he decided instead to go start his own shit and he literally had to start over from the beginning.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, but that's something that not even your mediocre go-go band is willing to do.
No, but you know what? That DIY spirit was more so like the 80s, and then where, a lot of the bands, they did have their own labels and they were putting out their own records or going to other studios like up in Philadelphia and stuff and recording and putting out their own material, doing their own shows with their own sound systems and all that stuff. I think we just all got kind of spoiled. Because nobody, I mean, what go-go band, got their own sound system?
None of them.
Right. You know what I'm saying? And then a lot of the old promoters and band managers and stuff, a lot of them, they're gone, unfortunately. Like, and they had morals and they had code of conduct to a certain degree. I mean, it was striving back then, and then it got to a point where a lot of that stuff went out the window, and everybody's just kind of like every man for themselves. And I think that's kind of like where we are right now is just a result of that,
The craziest part is if there was ever a time in history for go-go to make some noise. And then we are to a certain extent, you know what I'm saying? Obviously we got, the Snoop Dogg song, there's some stuff going on, but I'm talking about like a new fresh crop, a new breed, you know what I'm saying? It's now, because all of that stuff that like back in the days when we're talking about the DIY stuff, that shit was hard and that shit was expensive.
Yeah.
Like you had to print up tapes and vinyl and CDs and stuff. Now you can just upload a file.
Yeah.
Put your metadata in it, get your ISRC code, put that shit on iTunes, and the world can buy it tomorrow, or Spotify, and the world can listen to it tomorrow, YouTube. It's so much easier now to do all of those things. I mean, it's more complicated too, and there's more noise. You know what I mean? To get over top of. But all I'm just saying is that if we could just take a few pages out of that book. Oh, remember earlier when I was talking about creating songs that fit that fit with the brand of the artist. Brooks said it would be like if Drake had a random ass death metal song called started from the bottom or following started from the bottom. Like he did start from the bottom and then he came out with a death metal song.
That's funny that you would say Drake, but I was in Starbucks earlier today and no lie, like they had a polka rendition of Hotline Bling. I was like, whoa.
But listen, Jules on top of Jules. You ever heard of Patreon before?
What, the platform?
Yeah. So the guy that started Patreon, his name escapes me right now too, but he used to be in damn, what the hell's the name of the band? He was in a band, I can't remember what they were called. Pomplamoose. He was in a band called Pomplamoose. And he started Patreon because he was like, yo, we're getting all these YouTube views. And we're not really making a lot of money off of it, but YouTube is making a lot of money off of it. Google's making a lot of money off of it. So that's why he started Patreon. So let me tell you about this dude. This dude has a band called Scary Pockets. Have you ever heard of them before? So Scary Pockets is like, you're familiar with Snarky Puppy at all?
Oh yeah.
So, Snarky Puppy, the way they got popular was doing this in studio recordings. It's not like a video. It's like a live video of the band, but recording in the studio, right? Okay. So Scary Pockets sort of does the same thing. They record in the studio. They have sort of a rotating cast of members, but they do funk versions of others. Like there's like a funk version of Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses.
Oh, wow.
Or a funk version of Creep by Radiohead, or a funk version of, I don't know, I think they got some rap songs too or whatever. But the music, the musicians are phenomenal, like killing. And they'll have different singers every time. And the singers are like every singer is like as good as Yanni or like as good as Mike from Secret Society. Listen, you know what I'm saying? Like they're always like great vocalists, great singers. And I was like, yo, we need to do this in go-go. Like do a go-go, okay, we do cover versions, we do go-go versions of cover versions better.
Yeah.
Do that shit. And that's what I'm saying. You can come at it from like what you were talking about with your son earlier, think outside of the box, do something different. You know what I mean? And just because it doesn't have to be totally different from everything else in the world, just different from what everybody else is doing in go-go.
Mm-hmm.
You only need 4 people to do that. A drummer. So let's Thump Studios. We're gonna get it started.
We get it started 2 hours later.
I'm gonna put. Do you guys have cameras in there yet? We need to get some cameras in there.
In the studio?
Yeah, we're gonna make this happen.
Everybody's got their iPhones, so
Yeah, no, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you what I mean. I'm gonna send you the video.
All right.
So we're gonna get this. All right. So we're gonna do a collaboration between GOGOTIX and a live agency and Thump Studios and producer Rob. I'm making it. We're making this happen right now.
Speaking it.
We're gonna put together a rotating cast of musicians, and we're gonna do go-go versions of songs that you wouldn't think you normally would hear a go-go version of.
That's what we're doing anyway, right?
Right. It's just like you just said, a polka version of Hotline Bling. Like we're gonna do that, but we're gonna record it in the studio and we're gonna put them up on the GoGoTix YouTube, and it's gonna be a collaboration, Thump Studios and GoGoTix, and let's do it. We're gonna make it happen right now. All right, my man. There he is. See, that's how you get shit done. Put yourself in the path of luck. Increase the surface area of luck.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, Rob, listen, man. I really appreciate you spending this much time with me, and we've been on before this, so I know your time is valuable and I appreciate it. Is there anything that you want to let people know that your work, other than the what we're about to do together, anything else that you want to let people know about that you are working on?
So yeah, I'm constantly working. Like this pandemic has been like a curse and a blessing at the same time. So I'm thankful for all the people that are coming to the studio and getting their stuff. I just started working with this new group called Major League Band.
Okay.
And Willie Howell. Yeah, I know. So they're out of Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, JB Soundman is like the he's like
Dread?
yeah. I don't think he has dreads anymore though, but
Okay.
yeah. And then working with Willie Howell.
Yep.
Drummer Willie.
Yep.
I'm working with a lot of folks, man, and everybody's doing some great stuff. I was doing some stuff with Vibe. They really have some really good stuff that they're doing. It's like they're doing covers, but just the way that they're twisting them and just like making it theirs.
Listen, I booked Vibe for a fairly decent amount of shows. I was booking them for all the shows that they obviously did at the casino, and I'm booking them for shows at the City Winery. If you're a promoter and you're watching this, I need you to know that there are two bands that sell tickets that you probably don't know. So Vibe sells tickets. Secret Society, they're not a go-go band, but they sell those two bands right there.
Yeah.
They will sell you tickets. So shout out to Vibe. Anyway, so you're working with them doing some recording, or?
Yeah, well, so we're doing recording. We're working out details as far as mixing right now. But I mean, you know, and then I'm working with just got off the phone with Cherie from Belladonna. They got a couple of originals that they're working on. Yeah, people are working, man. And I'm just blessed to be like in the middle of all this stuff, just, you know, to you know, help them. And then they don't mind my input. I'm like, hey, I don't really like that. Let's try it this way. You know what I mean? So
that's what a producer does. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And so yeah, people scratching my back about this Huck-A-Bucks reunion. But
I didn't even know you didn't even put that in the thing. I didn't know that was a
I don't know. I don't know if it is. I don't know if it is.
What's happening? You know, it's still up in the air.
It's kind of up in the air. We're working on some stuff as members from the Huck-A-Bucks, but not necessarily as the Huck-A-Bucks.
I feel you. I got you. I know.
As of right now, but,
I got
you know, I got
enough momentum going around it, and the rest of them will want to fall in.
Oh yeah, no, we got some visions and some plans and stuff that we can't just divulge all that right now, but
for sure,
we got stuff in the works.
Well, stay tuned. We'll bring you back when we'll bring. I can get multiple people on, so when you guys are ready to go, we'll get you, Ricky, and Cheapy. And yeah, we'll have to get Ricky on because he literally has commented 7,000 times on here that about that you and Kenny were mastered. What did I say by Ricky Angles and X Band? So, okay, Ricky, I'm gonna give you your shout out. Go. He's probably mad at me because I cussed 100 times during this interview.
Oh yeah, you know he's.
When we did the interview, he's like, "Can you please try not to cuss?" I'm like, "Dude, you know I cuss like a sailor. I will do my best, but I apologize in advance."
Yeah, I think you did pretty good on this interview. I counted like maybe three.
Oh,
three or four.
Man. Oh, well, I guess we'll do it all right then. You didn't even ask me to do it. I guess maybe I just knew Ricky was going to be on here, so I tried to.
Yeah, man.
What's up, man? Well, we'll be looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
And yeah, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
pleasure,
And
man.
it's funny that you were nervous about the way it looked. You got the best setup so far. You look like,
Oh, wow.
like you're on VH1 Behind the Music or something like that. Like I'm impressed, man. I'm impressed.
Cool. I think this pandemic has made us all like TV producers.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was telling you earlier, this is never in a million years what I thought I would be doing. I don't really like being on camera. I don't really like talking in public. Is not really my thing at all. But you adapt. You got to do what you got to do to keep the wheels spinning.
For sure. For sure.
Awesome.
All
Well,
right,
thank
man.
you. I really appreciate it, and
Yes,
we'll
sir.
talk soon. I'm gonna hit you up after about this idea and see if we can really make this work. I think it'll be good. All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. Appreciate it. If you can click the subscribe and the bell icon below, that would be dope. Also, I want to let you know I have just added on the GOGOTIX.co website. Well, first of all, there's some shows back up again now because there's some shows happening again in Virginia and stuff. So we put some. I'm not the Go-Go Vlad. I show my face at least, Brooks. And I'm not trying to incriminate anybody either. I'm just trying to get some good information out to people. So don't call me that. But anyway, I also have started a blog on GOGOTIX. So just put up the video. If you didn't know, Vibe magazine premiered the Rare Essence and Snoop Dogg song. So I got a link to that on there, and also the video. If you don't even want to read the article, you could just watch the video. Also got new releases from New Impressions and TCB up there. Also, my man G Magic, who I interviewed a few weeks ago from the What Band, and I forget the comedian's name, but they got a really hilarious skit of Chick-fil-A dissing Popeyes. They did it to a bounce beat. It's funny. You got to check that out. Also, Candace. I forget her last name, but Candace Dillard, I should know because I booked the band for her wedding. Candace Dillard from Real Housewives of Potomac. She has a go-go song out that's produced by Chucky Thompson and my man Uno. And features Big G. So go to the blog. It's right on the front page right now. It's gogotix.co. And you can check out links to all of that stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, there's other stuff too. I just started a new Facebook group as well too, but I'll tell you all that stuff later. We'll put it up on the website. But yeah, just go to gogotix.co. That's sort of the hub for everything. If you want to see see any of the interviews, you can just click on the previous episodes from YouTube, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, head over to gogotix.co. I'll see you guys next week. Looking for, we got my man Wiley K, Mr. Miami, promoter and founder, creator of Miami Takeover. So he's coming up next week. So look out for that. It was supposed to be on Wednesday, but actually I'm going to Miami over the weekend, and I won't be back in time to do it on Wednesday. So we're going to do it on Thursday, October 1st. So make sure you set your reminder on YouTube for that. Please subscribe. Please click the bell button below. Please. We got my man Spoon on here. I don't know who this is from We Are Experience. I don't know if this is We Are One Experience. I'm sorry. I don't know if this is Spoon or I don't know if this is Daryl Brooks or who we got on here. But all right. So got new music coming from We Are One Experience. Horror music experience, Dr. Dre or Dre. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And Rob's on his shit. All right. We'll see you guys next week. GOGOTIX.co, and please subscribe and click the bell icon below. See you guys next week. Thanks.